how does all of this affect women who need men?
Well, I think the most striking statistic that I know of is, well, the striking statistics are the two we already discussed. The radical rise in unhappiness among unmarried young women who have liberal proclivities, and the fact that 50% of women in the West now who are 30 don't have a child, and that half of those will never have a child despite wanting one. It's so dreadful. Like, you just take those women, let's just think about them for a minute. So that means that half of women at 30 who don't have a child, half of them will search for a mate and try to have a child, let's say through their 30s, and then that won't work. And so then they'll hit 40 and they'll be alone for 50 years. Right. And the thing is, as you get older, the people that you have gathered around you, your family, become increasingly important to you and increasingly necessary. And what you do when you mature is that you start attending to other people more than you attend to yourself. That's the definition of maturity. Now, you know that as a mother, and you also.
That is definitely true. As I'm getting older, I found myself that I tend to care about other people so much for some reason. I don't know, but I guess that's what he's describing. When you're younger, it's all about you. But as you get older, whether you have kids or not, you tend to care about the people, obviously the people who care about you as well, but you tend to show more appreciation for other people, in my opinion, at least in my experience so far.
Also know that that's a relief, right? It's that you find your purpose in that. And
that's right.
When the lefties, they talk about marriage as a patriarchal oppressive institution, and you can be unlucky, and some women are. They find a man his mode of relation is power, and they end up subjugated, although they generally play their own part in that, because women aren't that easy to subjugate, all things considered.
No, they say you teach people how to treat you.
Yes, well, like, women have their mechanisms, and they're very effective. Let's put it that way. So, but you see that the problem with the progressive liberal types is that they think that being mentally healthy is a matter of getting your individual psyche in order. And that's not right. Being mentally healthy is a matter of arranging the hierarchy around you that you belong to in a harmonious manner, so that there's you and your relationship with yourself, but then there's you and your relationship with your husband, and then the relationship between both of you and your children, and then the relationship between your families and other families in your town, and then with regard to your state and your nation, and then with regards to the natural world and to whatever's beyond that, say in the landscape of divinity. And happiness, resilience, meaning, purpose are all a consequence of organizing that hierarchy properly and finding your place within it. It's not an individualistic pursuit. And even the Scottish liberals, let's say, of the Enlightenment, who established liberal individuality, did that with the presumption that they were operating within a radically Christian framework and society. So what they did was they took the existence of that hierarchy for granted, and then said, well, if you organize that properly, then you can be a fully functioning individual. It's like, fair enough. But when all that collapses and an increasing majority of young people are headed for a relationshipless and childless future, then none of those liberal presuppositions hold. And so that makes everyone, well, it deprives their life of the meaning that comes in social service, and look, human beings are unbelievably social. You can take psychopathic murderers and you can punish them by depriving them of other people. That's how social we are. Right. So think about that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, right. So you can't be happy alone.
That's fact. Sometimes we hear women say, I don't mind being single. I don't need a man, this and that. But even the women who say they don't need men or they don't mind dying single, they have girlfriends. There is no woman who says she doesn't mind dying single and she has no friends, which gets to show, which Dr. Peterson just said, that as humans, we are social creatures. Either it's going to be your friends, your kids, your family members, but no one can just be by themselves the entire time. So sure, you don't need a man, but you certainly do need a police officer. You need a firefighter. You need the men who construct the roads that you drive on. You need other men to come protect you. You need the men in the military. That's for sure. You feel me? But you also need your friends. You need the waiters in the restaurants once you go to your brunch with your girlfriends. You need the DJ to play the music once you go out to party. You feel me? So at the end of the day, we all need each other. So, but the whole I don't need them. Even some men say they don't need no women, but I feel we need each other. At the end of the day, society is not going to run if we just segregate each other from each other for times to come. Society is just going to die off.
Besides, you shouldn't be striving to be happy anyways, because happy is a side effect, not an aim. But even if it was an aim, which it isn't, there's no happiness alone. I mean, what? There's nothing happier than a friendless teenager. I mean, who believes that? No one breathing believes that. That's the stupidest thing you could believe. Like, teenagers are desperate to belong, and you can parody that and say, well, if your friends all jumped off a cliff, would you? And, there's limits to how much you should sacrifice your soul to be part of the group. But by the same token, like, what other people think of you and how they relate to you, not only does that matter, it should matter. And so the whole progressive theory of the human being it's flawed in a manner that makes its enactment produce nothing but resentful pathology and misery.